Now we have the privilege of hearing our speaker, who for today is Rita Conrad, and Rita always has a message that that lifts me and enlightens me. So I am grateful for that. Here's Rita.
I need to do is to check my microphone. I've now learned over these many times, there's two things I do. I check the microphone and I find my glasses. Even though I'm gonna not need them, I have full faith of that. So we've had this recurring theme. We've heard it all now. Every time I hear the inspirational reading, every time I get up to speak, it's like, I'm done, that was it. So today is the first Sunday of Advent, as we have heard, the season observed in most Christian denominations as a time of expectant waiting and preparation for both the celebration of the birth of Christ at Christmas and the return of Christ at the second coming. In unity, Advent is a season of hope, renewal, and change. And as it says on unity.org, a time to embark on an adventure of spiritual introspection, just what we all need, a new adventure in life, knowing ourselves, connecting with ourselves. Each of the 4 Sundays of Advent have a particular theme, and as we heard from the Daily Word today, the theme for this Sunday is hope. It's a theme, a message, a feeling that I really need right now in my life. So I sure hope the speaker this Sunday has something worthwhile to say about it. What is hope, and why do we focus on it if we have faith? Aren't they the same? What do you do if, when you lose hope? How do you find it again? To answer the question, what is hope, I asked a dear friend of mine that I've met since I moved to Nipomo. She's in her early 40s, and over the last couple of years, she's gone from the height of marrying her high school sweetheart after all these years to the depths of shortly before their first anniversary being diagnosed with cancer. This past week, she just finished a month-long daily radiation treatment. And she's always happy. She is always happy. I've never seen her down about any of this. So I went to her and I asked her how she would finish the sentence, hope is. And without hesitation and with great fervency, she said to me, necessary. Hope is absolutely necessary, she said. And then I turned to a person who I know we would all agree is an expert on hope. And through the wonders of technology, instead of me reading his words to you, we actually can hear him say these things to us in a much more inspiring way that only he can do. So, okay. I wish I had a good imitation of the Dalai Lama to do while I'm reading this, but I don't. Okay. I always say, and I always believe, the very purpose of our life is a happy life, happiness. I think the simple reason is that our existence is very much based on hope. There's no guarantee for our future. Something good, no guarantee. But we simply exist on hope. Hope means something good, something better. Therefore, once we've lost hope and become completely demoralized, then that mental attitude itself shortens our life. And also our physical health gets difficult. So being hopeful always, in spite of difficulties, always keeping optimism. Oh, I can deal with these difficulties. That mental attitude itself not only brings inner strength and self-confidence, but also that way you can conduct yourself more honestly, more truthfully, more transparently. That brings trust. Trust brings friendship. We are social animals. We need friends. Also in the world, there are many problems, but one individual cannot solve these things. Cooperation. Not only your own community, but also at a global level. Like global warming, these problems need worldwide cooperation and effort. For that, trust and friendship are very essential. So hope is essential for life. Our human existence depends on it. Our human life can be shortened without it. And when we live in the land of what's the use, we become simply a shell, a shadow, not anywhere near the magnificence of our eternal essence. And as the Dalai Lama pointed out, hope is a vital component to the concept of interconnection that we've been discussing this month. Trust, friendship, cooperation all come from having a hope-filled spirit. But what's the difference between hope and faith? If I am a person of faith, don't I automatically have hope? And if my hope goes away, does that mean I'm not a person of faith anymore? Faith and hope are often talked about in the same breath. Even in the daily word today, those things were combined. And it's true they're intertwined. But as I thought about it, there's got to be a chicken and an egg here. Which comes first? Dr. Norman Fried, a disaster mental health specialist for the American Red Cross of Greater New York, wrote that hope is a dynamic process involving the active pursuit of goals, a determination of how to reach those goals and the willpower to see them to fruition. Hope makes us creative. It challenges us to discover strategies for survival through the use of commitment, connection, and action. In the end, hope engenders faith. It forces us to think and act with a higher power in mind. So from Dr. Fried's perspective, we don't need to beat ourselves up when we've lost hope by thinking, how can I lose hope if I'm a person of faith? Hope leads us to faith. And when Paul Hasselbeck wrote about the steps involved in the creative process, in the Heart-Centered Metaphysics book he wrote, the first step, he said, is light, which I see as our hope, the illumination that there is more than we think we are seeing, that divine mind is our source. And then Hasselbeck writes about the second step in the creative process, faith. Through our faculty of faith, we affirm the reality of divine ideas as our divine inheritance. So Fried and Hasselbeck concur that first we see hope, light, and then we affirm and have faith. And while all of this is lovely to know, when you're in the throes of losing hope and trying to find it again, simply understanding hope is only the beginning to answer the bigger question, how do I find hope again? How do I stay hopeful when things seem hopeless? In this world, there are experiences, there are people, numerous people, with messages that are hope zappers. There are things that happen in our lives that suck the hope right out of us. Interestingly enough, hope doesn't go anywhere. It's always there. It's our lifeline, just waiting for us to grasp it and reconnect to it. And as I've been researching this topic, it seems there are several core steps to take to reconnect with your hope. The first is that you can acknowledge that where you are right now may seem hopeless, that it's really hard to be hopeful in a particular moment. Because as soon as we acknowledge that, yeah, life isn't the way I really wanted it right now, we stop the downward spiral from hope to despair. Yeah, this is tough, but we can't stay here with where we're feeling right now. As Brian has reminded us numerous times. We may be traveling through that valley of the shadow of something we don't like, but we're not going to pitch a tent there. The second step is to think in terms of just now, and we hear this repeatedly, to just be in the now. But when you are losing hope, it isn't particularly important that you stay now, because often we lose hope because of something we're projecting that's going to happen in the future. We start living as if that outcome is imminent, as if it's happening right now, and we start living as if it's now. To change this, we simply need to say, and I say this often to myself forcefully and quite loudly in my head, it's not now. That's not now. And for all we know, it may not be ever. As the Dalai Lama said, there's no guarantee about what's going to happen this afternoon, what's going to happen right when I stop speaking, let alone months and years from now. We can see hope more clearly when we just clearly see what's now. The third is to remember that while there will be many things that are out of our control, there are three things that are in our control absolutely at all times. And Deborah pointed them out. Our thoughts, our words, our actions. And I would say not only our words, but the words that others try to give to us so lovely that we really don't want. When we have lost hope, it's essential that we reframe negative thoughts that have taken over. It's essential to watch every word that comes from us, and particularly those that come to us. I've actually had to say to somebody, please stop beginning every sentence you say with unfortunately. To me. Unfortunately, blah. No. Just tell me what you have to say and leave the unfortunate out. Sometimes an event or experience requires that we reframe our entire lives. An opportunity to create something new. I think Kevin told us that several talks ago, to find opportunity out of the chaos. You know, I can't tell you the number of times I've done a paper, a presentation, a talk, something that I've created, a media product that I thought I had just the way I wanted it. It was perfect. And I went to hit save on my computer, and my computer screen went blank. My computer fell on the floor. The document disappeared, and I had to start all over, and it had taken me hours, sometimes days, to get it that way. But wouldn't you know it, the second time around, what I created was a lot better than the first time around, and it was faster. So too with our lives. Every time we think we've got life right where we want it, it's going just the way we want it to. An opportunity arises to create it anew, to create ourselves anew. And our life is better in ways we never dreamed, thought of, or envisioned. And that's part of the fourth step, is that we go looking for the good. And again, this is something we hear all the time, but perhaps never connected to finding our hope. Perhaps it's someone that you latch onto, like I did with my friend who's going through tough times, and said, how do you find hope? And then she helps me look for the good. I find ways to laugh or do things I love. My husband and I have been visiting a lot of medical practitioners lately, and on this last trip, he turned to me in the car and he said, I'm so glad we get to spend this time together. And I replied, okay, now let's affirm spending time together doing other things. And last Sunday afternoon, we did just that. After church, we got in the car and we did something we loved to do in our younger years. We just got in the car and got lost on country roads. In lovely Central Coast, you have beautiful places to get lost to. It's important, too, that even when you're struggling to get out of despair, you find a way to contribute to the world, because that will remind you that you are a part of the good things that are happening. You can always be a part of them, no matter where you are in life. Eric Butterworth wrote in the introduction to his book, Life is for Living, that some years ago I ran across this simple and yet cogent observation by L.C. Robinson, and I love that name, L.C. Robinson. Things may happen around you and things may happen to you, but the only things that really count are the things that happen in you. Life for the average person consists of a number of things that happen around or to him. If these things are good, he's happy. If they're not, he's miserable. On this level of experience, man is simply a sponge, and life has meaning only in what he draws from the world around him. Yet the sage of old said, as he thinks within himself, so is he. In other words, all that really counts is what we think about what happens around us and to us. It is here in the realm of the mind that we are or can be masters of ourselves and of our worlds. Of course, man is more than a reactor to outside stimuli. Man is a channel for the expression of the infinite love of God, a focus of the infinite life of God, a creative activity of the infinite mind of God. Man is not just a reactor. He is an actor, acting out into expression the imprisoned splendor within him. Life is for living. Every individual has a built-in capacity to meet and conquer any of the challenges or changes that life may seemingly present. Life is not just an arena in which to solve problems. Life is for living. Problems are simply opportunities to stir up the gifts of God within you, drawing forth more of your innate potential. Every action we take ignites our expectation of good, of something better occurring. Not necessarily that the problem is solved the way we'd like, but that we can look to something better occurring as a result of it, as a result of who each of us are. Andy Bishop, who this year was named a Washington Distinguished Educator, videoed a weekly inspirational message. That was my second video that I said to Chris, we're not going to use the second video. And now I'm really glad that because it was longer than the Dalai Lama. But what he did was, for his elementary school students, he had weekly words of wisdom, inspirational wisdom. And he did this during the 2021 COVID-impacted school year. So every week, he would send words of encouragement to students. And his final message of that year was focused on hope. And this is in part what Andy had to say. Hope is change, and hope is the belief that things will continue to change, even when unspeakable and incredibly difficult things happen in our lives. Hope is always there, telling us that we can persevere, we can grow, we can get out of this and move into something better. Hope is never letting possibility out of your sight. And on that same path, hope is creating. It's taking nothing and turning that nothing into something. It's the belief that we can all create amazing things in our own ways. And hope is not worrying that what we create isn't good enough or thinking we aren't good enough. Hope is knowing that everyone is a work in progress and that we're all doing the best that we can. Hope is reaching out to other people and telling them when you need help, because in the asking, we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and we allow other people to understand our hardships and understand us better. Hope is love. It's being caring and kind towards everyone that we come across, even when it's hard to do that. Hope is always there, right there, if you're looking for it. As the national youth poet Amanda Gorman wrote, "The new dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light, if we're only brave enough to see it. If we're only brave enough to be it." Hope is necessary. Hope is essential for happiness and interconnection. Hope leads us to faith. Hope is life, and life is for living. And so it is.